This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Good morning and soon to be afternoon to all of you in the United States and all over the world who tune in to us. We have some news today, and the reason I do the news is because my tagline is helping you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. And this is the wise portion of it, just so you know what's going on in the world. Now, you may form your own opinions about what's going on. This is one woman's opinion. I try not to give opinion news, but sometimes it just has to come out what I'm thinking. Today is national news and international news. I want to talk about one thing briefly that's going to be happening in the White House. Apparently, they're going to be using social media influencers to help President Biden, decide what should be on his campaign trail speeches and discussions. And also, they're even supposed to have a briefing room. So I find that quite interesting because some of those people that are considered influencers are old enough to vote, but they're not really talking about what's going on in the world. They're more interested in influencing you on product information and all. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's maybe the way the world is going, maybe the way our country's going, who knows? Well, the big news is the leak of the classified documents that apparently came from a military base, a low-level employee who was allowed to be in there and be able to access these things. And he put them on Discord, D-I-S-C-O-R-D, which was going to be one of the things I was asking you about today and trying to find out what it was. So Discord only happens to have about 20 people on it. And a lot of them are gamers that banded together to talk about the gaming world and what was going on. Apparently this leaker is around 20. One of his friends was on blacked out. You couldn't see his face and his voice wasn't disguised, but you couldn't see his face or anything. And he was answering and saying some things that were going on, which I found quite interesting. It's supposed to be a secure space on a military base, but there are a lot of civilians that work for our armed forces and military that they are supposed to be highly vetted. I don't know what happened here. But his friends say that nothing was attached to Russia on this. This is not Russia collusion or anything like that. These are actual papers that were telling what our attitudes to these different countries are, different information that's coming out, and who has the most weaponry and things like that. So they are rather sensitive. Of course they are. They're highly classified. I don't know which level, but it sounds pretty disastrous. The government has been apologizing to the United States people about this and say they're investigating. To me, it's very frightening. So one thing that is interesting, somebody said today, I think it was somebody from the Intelligence Committee, said the cavalier attitude towards classified documents has to stop. There's over 2.94 million people who have access to classified documents in our government. What? That's ridiculous. How could every person be vetted well enough to be able to see classified documents with sensitive military information and protecting our country and our economy and everything else? It's craziness. I just don't understand that. So that was the last count of how many people have access to them was done in 2019. Who only knows how many have access to them now, since we're in 2023. Each time somebody changes office, they can get new staff, whether it's a president, a vice president, a senator, House of Representatives person. And all those people have to be vetted. But what about the ones that are no longer working there? Do they lose their high security clearance? That's a question I want answered now. The crime rate is continuously escalating to the point where LA has $15 billion being spent on the homeless situation. And these people, many of them are committing crimes because they're not getting food, they're not getting housing. I'd like to know what our Governor Newsom did with that $15 billion. Some of it came from the federal government, big chunks of it. So you across the country should be a little interested in what Governor Newsom is doing about the homeless situation here in Los Angeles too. And they're all over. They live in camps, and a lot of them have tents, a lot of them don't. And I'm not going into all the details about what happens with the homeless on the streets because you've heard it all. You've heard all about the drugs, the defecating, people starving, people begging. How could the richest world, so-called richest world, country in the world, be letting this many people be on the streets? There are even now homeless encampments in places like Beverly Hills. And you're wondering why I pick on that? Well, I used to live there, but it has nothing to do with it. These are affluent areas, including Nancy Pelosi's area, where the homeless are camped outside these houses, and children have to walk past them. And stores are being looted by the homeless, where they steal a lot of things. And you're wondering, what are they stealing? They're stealing things so that they could go sell them somewhere else. So if you have boxes of energy bars and they steal those, they'll go out onto the street and try to make these homeless people pay them to get an energy bar to eat. Or they may be stealing beauty items, lipsticks, foundation. They could be stealing toys for children. All these places are just becoming terrifying, quite frankly. Chicago had their Whole Foods market close after 1 year. I just can't even believe it. I still have a friend that lives in Chicago, and it's horrible, just horrible. And it seems that Chicago doesn't seem to mind what's going on there with crime and all, because they just elected a very leftist-leaning, woke mayor to take over Lori Lightfoot's position. And I thought she was easy on crime. This is going to be even worse. Okay, that was my opinion. We'll see what happens. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is electric vehicles, that everybody, all new cars by 2032 are supposed to be electric. What about the people who can't afford to buy them? Does that mean they can't drive their old combustion engine cars? I don't want to go buy an electric vehicle at my age for $61,000 minimum. I just don't want to do it. I don't drive that often anymore because my friends live around me. If I do drive, it's not that long. It's an hour drive. But if I do it back and forth, then I'm going to be getting tickets. I don't know. There aren't even enough places to charge these cars. We have one that parks by us in our apartment home complex, and he's always driving around trying to find a new place to charge because we don't have chargers here. To put a charger in your home could be as much as $100,000, depending where it's put, what kind of new wiring they have to put in, and everything else. Look, I'm not against helping the environment, but couldn't we think this out before we mandate things? Remember during lockdowns, they mandated you had to stay in and close your business and not do this. And if anybody dared to try to do business with people wearing masks, they were fined anywhere from $5,000 upwards for not obeying that mandate. So this thing coming in from President Biden is a mandate that no new cars can be sold unless they're electric. It hasn't passed yet. I don't know if it's going to be an executive order. Who knows what it's going to be? But it just sort of tells me our elected officials are not thinking. It seems that climate causes are taking precedence over feeding the homeless and housing the homeless, and not having our schools taken over by woke people who aren't even teaching education anymore, to the point where once we were the highest rated education in the United States, and we've fallen to I don't even know what number. It scares me to think about that. Some kids are graduating from high school, and great schools supposedly have high ratings on the United States scale. They can't even read and do arithmetic. How can they even start their own business if they want to do that instead of going to a four-year school after graduation? They can't do it because they can't do math. They can't figure out how to do a profit and loss statement. I'm very worried about the youth coming up. I was just speaking with my wonderful engineer, Juan, and we were talking about this a little bit. We were talking about artificial intelligence, which we are going to be doing a couple shows on coming up in the near future, like next week. Everybody needs to learn artificial intelligence because it is a thing that is happening, and it's happening rapidly. And every child needs to learn how to use a computer and learn coding, because this is the way the world is going. And if you can't do it, you're left behind. And this is only going to create more poverty with uneducated children. So our schools should be concentrating on that. And a lot of these schools that are in poverty-stricken areas don't even have laptops for their kids, and they don't even have access to the internet. So we have a lot of work to do before we say, you must get an electric car. And by the way, what are they going to do with our cars that are not electric vehicles? Are they going to make us turn them in? Are they going to come and confiscate them? And how will they take care of the waste? The rubber on the tires, all the computer parts in them with the chips that are quite valuable during the pandemic and the supply chain shortage, and when we got cut off from chips being delivered from China, which we're far too dependent on. Nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what to do, and they couldn't get any chips for the cars that needed to be repaired or the cars that were being built. So somebody think this through and give us a good plan, and maybe we could all get behind it. Are you going to pay me for my old car? I sincerely doubt it. Now, just in on the news, if you haven't heard it yet, they did arrest somebody in the murder of the man who was killed last week from Cash Mart. I can't remember what the name of it is. I don't have it in Cash App. Bob Lee was stabbed in San Francisco at 2:30 in the morning and bled out at the hospital. They have arrested somebody in that murder, so that's one good thing that we're hearing. I'm still so sorry for his family and all that happened to him. That is about it for the news, except I do want to mention that we do have some troops over in Ukraine in our embassy protecting those workers there, and our ambassador. They're the special forces that we send to places like Ukraine, and the embassies that may be under attack and may have to be evacuated. So that's a good idea. Those are the only troops the government is telling us that are there. So let's keep an eye on that and see if anything else happens where we put more troops in there. We certainly don't want that, but we want Ukraine to remain free country so that they can be a sovereign country like they were. All righty, so today's show is Live in the Present, Plan for the Future. Have you done that? Now, I'm not talking about financial things. We talk about that a lot, and a lot of other people talk to you about it. What I'm talking about is feeling lost in your 50s, and what are you going to do? So too many aging and older people live in the present with no regard for the future. There is a new way of aging that can be fulfilling and happy. Chances are, if you are now in your 50s, you will live into the 80s or 90s. Our parents face their 50s after having raised their children and reached the pinnacle of their careers. Many times women found their lives changed by becoming empty nesters. And unfortunately, some faced divorce and even widowhood. They felt stuck in the old way of the 50s and the 60s, wondering how to fill their newfound extra and excessive time trapped in their minds. They had no more excitement or contentment. But some of us, and this is more true today of our generation and the generations coming up than ever before, they have unfulfilled dreams and desires to accomplish. Research tells us you don't need to be afraid of creating when you're in your 50s and looking to have a more fulfilling life. Entrepreneurs in their 50s and above are likely to succeed 20% more than the people in their 20s and early 30s. Now, those are entrepreneurs. We're not talking about the C-suite and other corporations and things like that. Women control 64% of the global spending. We know what we need and want. You'll be surprised to find out that the 50 plus women are using social media more than ever before. And you think people are not on the internet when they reach their 50s, but that's not true. They're using Facebook Live, Reels, Stories, Instagram, and podcasts to grow from the little less than 2% that were on there a few years ago to more than 35% in today's day and age. So what are you going to do with your life? Well, purpose comes from passion. What really lights your fire and excitement? And I'm not speaking about your love life and sex, and I'm talking about what interests you and what lights a fire in your brain and your mind and what excites you and what do you find yourself going back to? What kind of books are you reading, movies you're seeing, television shows you're watching, people that are having lunch with you, and what are you talking about and how are you filling your time? I urge you to get moving. I'm going to give you a few things to do, and this is number one. Keep moving. Don't sit. Go out and find a walking trail. You don't need to just walk around the streets, walking around your neighborhood, although that's a good place to start if you want to. But you could drive your car, take a bus, whatever, and you can find a walking trail in some of the big parks, sort of like Los Angeles here has Griffith Park. I know you're going to tell me it's dangerous. Well, maybe take a partner with you, take a group with you, maybe take a park that's a little closer to you. There's little pocket parks all over, even in New York, there's pocket parks, and you can go, the pocket parks are between huge skyscrapers in different neighborhoods. Of course, you have Grand Central, you have Central Park in New York. In Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, I think they have 5 different large parks where we used to go and walk, take the dog walking on the dog walking trails. They had lots of animal parks where they could go play with their buddies, but they had lots of trails and paths through these public parks that some of the huge entrepreneurs of the day built, like the Carnegies, the Forbes, all these people. They were really great by giving wonderful libraries, parks, museums to the people of Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. So there are things like that in Los Angeles. There are in San Francisco, there's Golden Gate Park. But too many of these places are not safe to go in anymore. So if you're going to go walk around something like that, take a partner with you, take your phone with you, be sure you can pocket some mace, pepper spray. Mace, I guess, is illegal. Pepper spray, something like that. Just be safe, but keep moving and look at the beauty surrounding you. Take a walk on the shore of the lake. Take a walk on the beach. Keep moving because it does more than give you energy. It boosts your mind and your well-being. It boosts your mood. Being outside, I know it's been a terrible winter, so a lot of us couldn't be outside all the time, but now the sun is coming out, spring is here, except for Florida that just got drenched. But keep out there and get some energy and some sunshine, because sunshine elevates your mood. Number 2 is keeping your physical health. And when you get older, one of the first things that starts to go, now I'm not talking about devastating diseases today, such as heart disease and cancer, Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about physical well-being if you are physically healthy. And you want to stay that way. But one of the first things that starts to go on an otherwise healthy person are joints. I woke up 2 months ago and my hand was swollen. Well, not my hand, my fingers. And this one became a trigger finger. It gets locked like this. Whoops, locked like this. And I have to straighten it out. Now, I don't know why. I went to my doctor. She said a lot of people get it. I guess I'm going to have to go see a specialist. Nobody in my family has arthritis. I don't know why I would. I kind of think of this as something that may occur because my mother had polio and I had polio, as did my brother, when I was 5 years old, and she never walked again. I said that many times. She was totally paralyzed, quadriplegic, and in a respirator. But I'm thinking maybe that is affecting me. I don't know, because otherwise I'm pretty healthy. But about 2 months ago, I got these pains. Now, that could also be from using my laptop so much. So now I use these little tiny rubber balls and I exercise my hands, specificity to do that, to get these fingers working and my thumbs and everything else. Pretty soon I'll be telling you what I eat for lunch. So I keep doing that, and the best thing to do is keep a healthy weight and exercise those joints and muscles. Use a good diet and get adequate sleep, which is about 6 hours for somebody who's older. You know, when you're babies, you have to sleep a lot because your brain and your body is developing. And while you're working and raising a family and all, you tend to sleep 7 hours, 8 hours would be really good. But as you get older, your body still requires 6 hours, but so many people wake up between 1 and 3 and can't go back to sleep. So you've got to get into a healthy situation and think about, go back and listen to our program on sleep last week. And when you're feeling good and healthy, it can help you cut down on your bad habits like smoking and drinking and any other bad habits that you have. Maybe if you're a woman, maybe it would be cutting down on nagging at your partner, because that's a nasty habit. Be kind to each other. It also helps with your mental health, and that is the third thing I want to talk about. If you think happiness comes from great wealth and great possessions and tons of money in your bank account, that's not true. That gives you a little bit of security. What does give you happiness is having a good heart, helping others, and knowing that happiness comes within. I will tell you, I have been devastated over the loss of my son, and I grieve, and I still grieve all the time. It will never leave me. I still cry sometimes in the morning, and I cry at night a lot. But that's the way it will be. Otherwise, I am grateful. I have an attitude of gratitude. I thank God every day for giving me more time on earth to be with my daughter and her children, my grandchildren, my friends. We're all going through things in our life, but if you can get that happy place in your heart and get it to come up to your mind and be grateful, you'll be a better person, and you'll have less pain in your joints, your stomach, your eating. You won't gain as much weight. You'll just be a better person, and people will love to be around you. One of the things, number 4 on my list to help you decide what your purpose is in life, so you can decide how you want to spend all the time in your 50s until your 80s or 90s, is to journal, or at least make a list of all the things that you would like to do or you enjoy, and start doing some of them. Maybe you have a desire to start a business. Well, jot that down. Say what the business is and what you would need to do to start that business. Lots of women entrepreneurs succeed after the age of 50, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But write down things like you love to garden, you love to read, you love history, you love art, you love fashion. A lot of women in their 50s and 70s, up to their 70s and 80s, and I've seen them on Facebook when I'm doing my research on the reels and all. They're doing reels. Now, if you have a phone, you can do that on your phone, on your smartphone. They all have cameras now, and almost everybody has a phone. A cell phone. I couldn't think of what to call it. Cell phone, okay? And they all have cameras. You see this? Cameras. Now, this is an old iPhone 11. I'm not one, being in the later part of my life, to go out and have the latest in technology all the time, but I don't think I do such a bad job with technology, with a little help from my friends. I mean, when I started doing this podcast, which was different, I was used to going into a studio. I had to learn a lot of new things. And right now, I have to learn how to do some clips with the timing and get them out, because we're going to start some new things for you guys so you can get some more information from us. But I had to rely on Juan, my wonderful engineer, to help me walk me through some of these things I had to do. He always checks my mic, he checks my camera, he tells me to move to the left or the right, up or down, speak louder, don't talk so loudly, all of this stuff. He helps me constantly. So don't be afraid to ask these younger people. We can learn from younger people, and they can learn something from us. Like they can learn how we all learned to type on a typewriter or take stenography. I got to tell you, I never learned shorthand. So do those things. Another thing, you could journal, because this is what you were taught to do at the beginning of our generation and when we were teens and the generation before us. Women love fashion. I love fashion, but I don't like creating fashion except putting outfits together in my closet if I'm going somewhere fun. But many women were taught, oh, you have some spare time, you finished your homework, oh, you're bored, okay, go design your wedding gown. All right, well, not everybody wants to get married these days, and they don't have some of the big elaborate weddings that most people had of our generation. But what they do want at this age are women who design clothes for our age. You know what? We don't want to be on camera without sleeves. We might go to the grocery store or to the beach, and we don't care what people think. We're not looking for a boyfriend. We're not looking for the other women to be jealous or envious. We just want to be comfortable, but we want to be fashionable. So why don't you sit down and sketch some outfits like that and find one of your girlfriends or boyfriends to be a partner with you and start a new fashion line. There's so many things you can do, and a lot of them don't cost a lot of money. So sit down and put that in your journal or your list. Number 5, when you're at it, take some time when you're at your journal, take some time to reflect on how you succeeded in your younger life, raising your children, or solved problems and succeeded in your career. That might help some younger people and what they're going to do. Give to others your skills and learn some new skills from the people that you're helping, and you will feel that you're loved, and you can love yourself by helping other people. So love your younger self and take some ideas from your younger self and think about what made you so happy. Number 5 is the ideal life. What are you doing? If you can't dream it, you can't do it. That's what Walt Disney said. If you can dream it, you can do it, is what Walt Disney said. So if you haven't achieved all your goals in life and you want to go climbing some of the high peaks and you still have your physical abilities about you and your good health, start training, join a group, and join one of these mountain climbing groups. You can find all sorts of places around to join in different groups that will pique your curiosity and your interest. There's lots of book clubs around, and they study or read other genres besides self-help. They do poetry, they do mystery, they do science, they do the arts. Get into a book club. Get into a club. If you like to crochet, find a crocheting club, one of the places that sells yarn, or maybe a Michael's that sells crafty things. They might have groups that you can join. There's all sorts of places you can meet people. Take your dog to a dog park and see who's there that likes the same kind of dog you do, or maybe they want to go take a walk up in the hills and take the dogs. That would be fun. So don't forget that you still have a lot of life in you, and you need to get rid of the negative thoughts and the "I'm too old" mantra going around in your head. I want you to do me a favor and do yourself a favor. There is a list out that came out about, I believe, 4 years ago, and it comes out every year now. Maybe it came out sooner than that. This is 2023. It came out in 2020 or 21, I believe. It's the Forbes Over 50. Now, I've had interviews with people on my show that are the Forbes 40 under 40 or 30 under 30 that have been successful people, and they've made those lists. And they have applications at Forbes that you can put yourself on, and you can have somebody nominate you, and it's pretty tricky to get on them. You have to have a good resume. But I want you to Google today, Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever you want to use to search, or go to the library. Oh my God, what a thought. Deborah Zaleski, Zelkali, I can't pronounce her name. I want you to look her up. You can look up the founder of the Golden Door Spa. Now, she didn't have the greatest of lives when she was growing up and when she left home and got married at a very young age. And she and her husband started a health and wellness place. But they had a volatile marriage and they got divorced, and she got remarried around 50, and then that ended in divorce. And you can read about her divorce agreements and everything else, and how she was the main force between these health and wellness places. And lo and behold, she founded the Golden Door Spa, which I would say is the premier spa in the United States. It's right outside Tecate, Mexico. It's pricey, but it's highly successful. And she has gone on, and she is much older than 50 now. That's why I want you to look her up. She then has sold the idea of herself helping people in different countries, women in different countries, and she continues to make waves in this world well over the age of 50. If she can do it, you can do it. It doesn't matter what happened in your life prior to now. This is now. That was then. Believe me, there's lots of memories I have in the back of my head that I don't want to come to the forefront, but sometimes I think about them. I didn't have the greatest of childhoods. I didn't have the greatest of growing up in my teen years. I had lots of fun during some of those times, but sometimes it's hard to get over the bumps in the road. And I can understand that if you have them, but you're going to live a long time if you take care of yourself and take care of your mind. So get those negative thoughts out and think that I'm not too old and I can succeed at anything I want. But you need to write down your thoughts or type them up on a PDF on your computer, and you should know what a PDF is. If you don't, look that up too, because I'm here to get you to know more about technology, and I'm here to get you to know more about you, yourself, and your happy life after the age of 50. There's another person that I think some of you that are in your 50s and 60s can probably relate to right now, rather than the Golden Door, because everybody's looking for a little extra cash these days. This is the founder of The Real Real. Do you know what The Real Real is? Well, it was founded by Julia Wainwright after her company that she was working for let her go because they were closing the doors. And her husband announced he wanted a divorce. And she went out and started The Real Real, REAL. This is a company that takes designer clothes, very high-end clothes, and some basically designer clothes, but they don't have to be overly expensive. They take shoes, jewelry, they take Baccarat, Waterford crystal, things like that. They have expanded. She started out with just clothes, handbags. She was over 50. And look at the success now. She knew her niche. She knew her niche. She knew her customers. They were just like her. She wanted that Chanel bag, but maybe she couldn't afford it. Maybe that's what gave her the idea. She didn't want to buy it at that time because they just let her go, shutting down the company. And her husband said, I want a divorce. So now she's back to looking and seeing what's going to take my time and what's going to give me an income. The Real, I have to tell you, I'm not getting paid for any of this. The Real is a company that I have used because why do you have the designer clothes and your nice clothes hanging in the closet if you're not going to wear them? Or you want the new seasons instead of the old seasons? They're very reliable. They pick up your clothes. It's one of the very legitimate ones. There's some other copycats out there that are also legitimate, like the Poshmark, things like that. And that's for a little younger crowd, I feel. It's just wonderful. Even my 16-year-old, soon to be 16-year-old granddaughter has used Poshmark. So if you're looking for a prom dress or something, maybe you want to look on one of those spots and start thinking about, if you're 16, start thinking about what you want to do with the rest of your life, even though this isn't a show for 16-year-olds. But sometimes you never know when your grandkids are going to be listening in. So that's it for today. I think you all can figure out what you want to do and start getting out more, start feeling better, be healthy, keep your mind active, don't feel lost, think about all the good things you have, be grateful, and help your fellow sisters out there, your friends, what's happening in their life. I have one friend going through a lot of business problems right now. So I talk to her as much as I can, trying to help her get that straightened out. I have other friends that are thinking about a divorce at this age, and that's devastating to them. But I'm showing them that they can still have a wonderful life. Though they may be on the giving end of a divorce. They may have decided it's time to spread their wings and fly and follow some of these things we've been talking about. Maybe in your 50s, you're so well off that you can afford to travel, or maybe you need to go and travel with a girlfriend or a group of girls, a group of ladies. There's lots of places. I'm sorry, I have something flying around in this room. We've had hot temperatures and all the little gnats and things are coming in now. So we have lots of groups out there now that have for women only or single trips that you can go on and meet a lot of interesting people while you're going on them. Some of them are up and down the rivers, wonderful river cruises in the United States, and see some of the history back there. You can also find trips to Europe that have singles on it and well priced so that you can have a great time. People are now starting to do business meeting on cruises and things like that. There's a great networker in our area who just took, I don't know how many people, I'll say 40, took them on a cruise. Of course, you pay for them yourself, but he had a networking group that signed up for it and took them on a cruise up and down the Mexican coast. So there's lots of places to meet people. There's lots of places to make money, to augment your fixed income. If you're on a fixed income, think about some of the side hustles we've talked about in the past and enjoy life. God granted you these extra years, so be sure you spend them with family and good friends, but get out there and meet some good friends too. There's an old saying, old friends are silver and new friends, golden friends are older and silver are new friends, but make them into the golden friends also. So next week, I want to tell you, I've had an author, a good friend of mine, an author, come on my show in the past. And because she has written these amazingly fascinating books on artificial intelligence. And, it sounds very crazy for a woman to be doing this, but science fiction books. And they intrigue me because I never read this genre before. But she's still an author and she's working on her next book coming out, which has nothing whatsoever to do with sci-fi or anything like that. And they're always wonderful books, so you're going to want to read that too. And we'll have her on after that book is released. But she does tons of research for science fiction. And one of the sections she's studying is artificial intelligence. And she's been doing this for quite a while. Well, you can't turn on a news program today without hearing about artificial intelligence. Chat GPT is on now. And there are some people who are posting ads on Facebook using it. And their ads say, if you're reading this ad, it was done by Chat GPT. Just to show you that they're incorporating it in their business. So that's one small part of artificial intelligence, AI. We're talking about robots now. Some of the robots that are autonomous would be a self-drive electric vehicle. And that's what Tesla, Elon Musk has out there. And there's still quirks in that too. So they're constantly working on it. And there are some people who say, including Elon, that artificial intelligence and robots may take over the world, and it could at least eliminate 300 million jobs. You're going to want to tune in next week. It's a little off of our usual topics, but I think you'll find it interesting, exciting, frightening, all of those things. So be sure to tune in, and turn on with our show next week. Thanks for joining me today. I always love being with you. Let me know what you would like to have me speak about. And I will be getting you a nice email address very soon for you to contact me. Thanks for joining. Remember this: cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thank you.